What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome back to my channel. We're going to continue with 2021 preview predictions for teams in the FBS. And today we're going to be talking about the Liberty Flames, a team that I have liked over the past couple of years and should continue to be good in 2021, or will they? You'll find out my thoughts here in a little bit. Hey, if you're new here, please subscribe. The channel has just grown at a crazy rate, at least to me. I didn't expect the channel to grow as fast as it has, so please continue to hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. Ring the bell as well, because I'm going to start uploading every single day. This weekend, I'm starting top 10 player list, and we're going to do top 10 quarterbacks, and then power rankings for conferences. Not sure which conference is going to be first, but that is coming up. Also, leave a like on this video. Helps get the video out to as many people as possible, along with sharing the video. And you can leave a comment down below telling me your thoughts on Liberty, some other video ideas you might have throughout the season. Let's just keep it, clean, PG, comment section below. So without further ado, let's talk about Liberty in 2021. Team last year that was fantastic. Real good team. And hey, ever since they've moved to FBS, they have been quite a surprise, and a team over the past couple of years that I have come to like, and they've proven themselves that they can challenge these Power 5 teams. Just look at last year. They went out, they beat Virginia Tech, and they went out and they challenged and definitely could have beaten an NC State team that was actually pretty good last year. Virginia Tech was a solid team last year. Nothing too exciting from Virginia Tech. But hey, still beat them. Right. And a lot of people seem like Power 5, Group of 5 / independent, there's that gap. For me, yes, there is a gap, but it's not as big as some people may think. When we look at Liberty, though, one name sticks out to you as is going to be a notable loss, and that's the first name on this list. And there's only 5 names because, hey, that's all that stood out to me. Peyton Pickett, the biggest loss on this team by far, at least in my opinion. An excellent running back, leading rusher there at Liberty. His presence is going to be missed in that running game for the Liberty Flames. Now, they do have other playmakers at running back, albeit none of them, in my opinion at least, are as good as Peyton Pickett. Some other names I threw on here: Chris Barrett gone at tight end, and Mason Knight gone at offensive line. So some solid keys, not really key losses, but solid loss on the offensive side, and solid loss on the defensive side as well. Michael Lewis and Emmanuel Dabney, both of which are gone. And that was about all that really stood out to me that had production last year for Liberty, as Liberty was one of the few teams that got to play quite a full season. They were slated to play BYU, but of course that game did not pan out just because COVID and everything like that. But that's pretty much it for the losses for Liberty Flames, at least in my mind. Peyton Pickett does stand out to you as that one guy. Stands out to me. He's going to be missed. But hey, as the saying goes, it's not about what you lost. It's about what you have. We're going to skip the quarterback because we'll talk about him a little bit more in a little bit. Joshua Mack and TJ Green are those 2 running backs that I would watch this year. Which one is going to get into the starting role? I'm not quite sure. It might be one of them. It might be none of them. Who knows? But those 2 guys, in my opinion, are the front runners for the Liberty Flames. Now going back to talk about the quarterback, Malik Willis. If you have not heard of this guy, what are you doing? Have you been living under a rock? If you look at any NFL mock draft, he is in most guys' first rounds. And in my first round right now as well. Malik Willis is a phenomenal quarterback, can do it all, can throw the ball, can run the ball, and is such a tough guy. He can take a hit in the pocket, can really stand in there and then throw it deep. And then if he needs to, once he gets out of the pocket, he's really hard to take down. A phenomenal quarterback, and he's going to be the key for Liberty this year. How well does he play? I expect him to play really well. Is he a top 10 quarterback, though? You're going to find out on Saturday, and he's got some great weapons out there. DJ Stubbs is an excellent wide receiver, along with Kevin Shaw, among other names you could throw on this list as well. On the defensive side, hey, just put some leaders from last year: Darrell Johnson, Trayshawn Clark on the defensive line, Anthony Butler, really good linebacker, and Aaron Pierce, of course, in the linebacking group. And then Skylar Thomas and Javon Scruggs. A lot of people overlook Javon Scruggs. And of course, a lot of people overlook Liberty in general. But Javon Scruggs, a really good player as well. Here's a look at the Liberty Flames schedule in 2021 and 2020. Again, one of the few teams to play as full a season as we got last year. They went 10-1. Were first among the independents because Notre Dame joined the ACC last year, and they ended up winning the Cure Bowl against Coastal Carolina. Some weird stuff happened in that game last year. Liberty ended up coming out on top. Hey, you guys know how this works. I'm talking about some games more than others, as they are more interesting matchups to me. If the date gets highlighted in green, it's a win. And if it gets highlighted in red, it is a loss for obvious reasons. So without further ado, let's talk about Liberty in 2021. And they open up their season in 3 games that I think they should win. Campbell, an easy win in my book. Campbell, of course, an FCS team. Yeah, this should be an easy win for Liberty. And then Troy. Talked about before, I'm not too up to date on my Troy Trojan information, although I do know that Troy is either going to be a really solid or really bad team this year. Liberty is far and away the better team here. They should be able to beat Troy pretty easily. I know we're rolling through these first games really quickly, but they should be easy wins. Old Dominion, solid team, but again, no match for the Liberty Flames. I think Liberty's going to win that one as well. Now stuff gets interesting on the schedule for Liberty. They should start out 3-0 before a road game on a Friday against the Syracuse Orange. So in the Carrier Dome, where Syracuse has pulled off some big wins in the past. And I think if Syracuse wins, it will be considered an upset because Syracuse probably vying for last in the ACC along with teams like Duke. Syracuse just not that great. They have a coach who's on the hot seat. Not a lot of interesting guys. Some good playmakers, yes, but as a unit, just don't work together well. Some people are going to talk about, well, look what happened last year, when Liberty played an NC State team that was, in a lot of people's minds, maybe okay or got lucky last year. Look what happened. They lost. Power 5 team. You can't win. They absolutely can win this game. I mean, it's Syracuse. It's just put green up on the screen. Liberty's not losing this game in my book. Maybe Syracuse can keep it close for, I don't know, a quarter. I don't see Syracuse winning this game. And if they do, I will be thoroughly shocked. But Liberty should start the season off 4-0. Before what I believe is their first tough test of the season, in my opinion, is the UAB Blazers. It's a road game. Of course, with Liberty being an independent, they can go out and schedule whoever they want. Albeit, I think there are some restrictions with that. But UAB, a team that ever since they've brought their football program back, have been really solid and genuinely quite a surprise. Once they canceled their football program and it seemed like UAB was done, and after people begging them to come back, it seemed like UAB was going to be like an expansion team in any pro sport ever. They're going to come out and they're going to look awful. They came out and they've looked really good, and they have not looked back since. Have consistently been one of the best teams in the group of 5 and consistently been up there with the top teams in Conference USA. And I think they're the top team in Conference USA this year. Sorry, I just kicked my little stand-up desk. Definitely think that UAB is a team this year that you're going to need to watch out for. A team that can make some noise, and UAB has some tough tests. They have to play Miami. They have to play Georgia. I know they have to play Georgia. Can't quite remember Miami, but they got some tough tests. This is going to be another tough one for UAB. They got a great quarterback, some good playmakers, even on the defensive side. All in all, I do think Malik Willis is going to be the difference here. Whichever quarterback can play better, I think Malik Willis is the difference in this game. I think he makes some plays and gets Liberty Flames this win. I think this is going to be a closer game than a lot of people think. I know people might overlook Liberty or overlook UAB, but this is going to be a really sneaky good game to watch in week 5. All right, so a home game against Middle Tennessee. Middle Tennessee is a team that a lot of people are going to overlook as well. Hey, Middle Tennessee, watch out for a guy named Reed Blankenship. He's a really good defensive back, really, really good defensive back. I've watched a lot of tape on him. I've been very excited by what he has brought to the table. All in all, this Middle Tennessee team is not great. Could turn some heads this year if the offense starts to get going. Watch out for Reed Blankenship. I think he's going to cause some problems for Malik Willis and this passing game. But of course, we know what Liberty can do on the ground, even without Peyton Pickett. Malik Willis can run the football as well. And if they just don't throw in Reed Blankenship's way, they're going to play him on DJ Stubbs. But hey, could cause some problems there for Liberty, as I've already mentioned. But I do think Liberty gets the win regardless. Then a road game against University of Louisiana Monroe. The Red Hawks did not win a game last year. don't really see that changing. Even though it is a road game, Liberty should be able to win that one. And then a road game against the North Texas Mean Green. This is a game that I think could turn some heads. North Texas has got a pretty decent quarterback, pretty decent weapons, pretty decent defense. They've made bowl games, I believe, at least 2 of the past 3, if not 3 consecutive years. At least 2 consecutive years, I know that. But I think North Texas is a team that can turn some heads. A team that I don't know what their non-con schedule really looks like. Haven't done a lot. But just reading about what Liberty has on the schedule, reading about this game, in my opinion, this game can turn some heads. And I think North Texas could keep this one closer than a lot of people might think, especially if Liberty is 7-0 up to this point. But I do think that North Texas ends up going down in this game. I just think Liberty's too good. Malik Willis is too dynamic. And this defense should play phenomenally as well. I do have Liberty winning this game. Before a game against UMass, UMass is one of the worst teams in FBS and consistently is. I don't see that changing. Why would you? Liberty wins the game. So they start off 9-0 before their 2 toughest games of the season by a long shot. UAB is a tough game, yes. And some people might say Syracuse is a tough game. I think North Texas is a sneaky tough game. These are the 2 toughest games that they will play on the schedule, and they have to do it technically in back-to-back games, but not back-to-back weeks because they have a bye week in between these 2. But it starts off with a road game against Ole Miss. And if you've watched my Ole Miss video, you know I'm really high on them. I love what Ole Miss is doing this year. Even though they're losing some guys on defense, I think their defense is going to improve, and I think their offense could be one of, if not the best in the SEC this year. With Matt Corral at quarterback, Jerrion Ealy, I think, is going to have an absolutely phenomenal season. And even though they lost Elijah Moore, I think they can have a really productive year at wide receiver as well. I really like what this Ole Miss team is doing. If the defense can get back on track, this is going to be a really good team. Now, speaking of this game, I think this can be closer than people think. But it is a road game for the Liberty Flames, and just with how high I am on Ole Miss, I can't see Liberty escaping with this one. I do have Ole Miss winning the game. A loss to Liberty, I don't think is super far-fetched, albeit is unlikely. But this is going to be an offensive showdown. This is going to be a quarterback battle. It's going to be Matt Corral versus Malik Willis all game long. Whichever quarterback plays better or whichever defense can make stops in the most critical times is going to win this football game. I'm going to tell you right now, don't be surprised if Ole Miss does not play up to par next year, and I'm giving them a lot more credit than they deserve if Liberty does not win this game. Honestly, I could see it going to either side depending on how both teams are playing, but with how high I am on Ole Miss, just talked about it, I'm picking the Rebels to beat the Flames. And then they have their bye week before what's their second toughest game of the season in my book against the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. Now, it is a home game for Liberty, so put that in mind what you will, although home field advantage, maybe not the best of advantages for a team like Liberty. Louisiana, we know, is number 1 in the nation in returning production, even though they're losing guys like Elijah Mitchell and Trey Regis and Joe Dillon. Still number 1 in returning production. This team is going to be disgusting next year. Levi Lewis, lots of all Sun Belt wide receivers, LeBlanc and Lacey. Really good guys out there as well. And they are getting Chris Curry, a transfer from LSU. Now, didn't talk about Chris Curry factually right in my LSU video. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow when we talk about Kentucky on my LSU video, albeit that video is bad. Anyway, getting off on a tangent. Look, my record doesn't change for LSU, by the way. Louisiana, hey, I just said this team's going to be disgusting. A defensive battle. A defense that's going to be really good as well. Not a defense, but I think this is going to be an offensive game as well. But in the end, I do think it's Louisiana's defense that ends up making the difference here. Just going to be a disgusting team next year. Albeit Liberty could win the game, and I think this game is going to be close. But I do have Louisiana winning the game, and you'll know that if you've watched my Louisiana predictions video. And then a home game against Army. I think people forget how good Army was last year. Does that continue in 2021? We'll see. I don't really know. I'm unsure what to think about Army. I don't think I'm going to do a schedule preview prediction for them this year unless you guys want me to. And if you do, leave a comment down below. but I do have Liberty winning the game. I think they bounce back after those 2 straight losses to finish out the season with a record of 10-2. That is my record for the Liberty Flames this year. Albeit, I think the ceiling is 11-1. Just a lot of tough games on the schedule in terms of the Liberty Flames. You have UAB on the road, which is going to be a tough one. You have Ole Miss on the road, which is going to be a really hard one. Louisiana, you get them at home, but it's probably the second best team in Group of 5 behind Cincinnati, maybe even by a long shot. And then North Texas, I think, could be a sneaky good team, along with some other teams that can make some noise. Maybe Middle Tennessee and rides the Reed Blankenship train, and maybe Army gets back to where they were last year. Albeit, I see 10-2 for this team, and the 2 most likely losses are the losses I have: Ole Miss and Louisiana. That's their 2 toughest games on the schedule, and I think it's the 2 teams that are outright better than Liberty on the schedule. Could I see them splitting that game? Yes. They're splitting those games? Yes. But if they're going to win one, they're going to beat Louisiana, not Ole Miss. That's just my opinion. Worst I could see is 7-5. Look, if Malik Willis either gets hurt, doesn't play well. Again, some interesting games on the schedule. Again, that is your absolute worst case scenario. The floor I have for Liberty maybe is around an 8-4, 9-3 team. This team is just too talented to do any worse. But hey, that's going to do it for Liberty. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, remember to do everything I said in the intro. Like, comment, subscribe. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about Kentucky, and I'm also going to address some things about LSU. But hey, we're going to preview Kentucky tomorrow, a team that's a very underrated coming into next year. What do I have Kentucky going in 2021? You're going to find out tomorrow. Remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. I'll see all you guys tomorrow. Again, it's Kentucky time. Goodbye.